Welcome to the Rabbit Hole with your girl, Naya Simone, where no topic is out of bounds. We question everything, dig deep, and research everything on an ongoing quest for truth, comprehension, and wisdom. In an increasingly complex world, the Rabbit Hole explores many different subjects in an easy-to-understand style that will help you to see the wood from the trees. In this session, we are discussing Q-Anon, Adrenachrome, NESARA and GESARA wealth transfer, and finally the 2020 elections and the accusation of fraud. Journey with us into the known and unknown. Okay, so let's get straight into it. Unless you've been under a rock or on a different planet this year, you could not have missed what's gone on with the 2020 elections in the United States of America. Whilst we're going to begin with Q-Anon and what that's all about, we're going to bring it all the way through to what may or may not happen in January 2021. Because in case you didn't know, even though the mainstream media is declaring that Joe Biden has won the election, Donald Trump is still in the White House and he's still president until January 2021. So let's take it to the beginning, starting with QAnon, and let's have a look at what may or may not happen. So let's begin with a quick overview on QAnon. Most major news channels have actually covered QAnon. It's been banned from social media in the lead up to the US elections earlier this year in October. Why? Because QAnon was becoming a massive movement happening all over the world. It's an internet conspiracy that went global. So what's the conspiracy? How did it come about? And how did it begin? The QAnon movement began on 4chan in October 2017. It has its origins in Pizzagate. If you don't know what that is, we're going to discuss it a little later on. But the basic premise is that a group of high-level military intelligence officials close to Donald Trump, QAnon followers believe, are sending out coded messages on this image board about the great and grand battle of good versus evil, in which Trump and what they call the Q team are working to destroy a global cabal of Satan worshipping pedophiles, which the QAnon community believes are controlling everything, including politics, entertainment, and the media. Information came as Q drops, with followers encouraged to follow the breadcrumbs. The QAnon community is awaiting two big events. One of them is called the Storm. This is meant to be the great mass arrest event where over 100,000 people from the highest level of power and entertainment are arrested and face a great day of reckoning. They believe Donald Trump is going to do what they call cleaning the swamp. The other event that they're awaiting is called the Great Awakening. This is basically when everyone realizes that QAnon was right the whole time and ushers in a great brand new age. Many felt that what the mainstream interpreted as Trump making foolish claims or bizarre statements were actually coded messages for those in the know. There is also said to be a link between Trump and JFK Jr. QAnon followers think that JFK Jr. is alive, an avid Trump supporter, and has been hiding in Pennsylvania for 2 decades. The link here being that JFK was assassinated because he was against the deep state, like Trump, and his son is in alliance with overthrowing the powers that be and the status quo. So what's Pizzagate? For those who don't already know, Pizzagate is a conspiracy theory that went viral in 2016. It's people who believe that many Hollywood elites and the powers that be are involved in not only trafficking kids for sex, but also physical abuse and even murder and cannibalizing them in horrific satanic rituals. With the paedophile ring being run from the basement of a pizza shop when the Clinton campaign manager John Podesta's emails were hacked and the messages were published by WikiLeaks, One of the emails was between Podesta and James Alefantis, the owner of the DC pizzeria Comet Ping Pong. The message discussed Alefantis hosting a possible fundraiser for Clinton. Users of the website 4chan began speculating about the links between Comet Ping Pong and the Democratic Party. The pizzeria is the headquarters, they believe, of child trafficking led by the Clintons and Podesta. There were, at the time, revelations of certain celebrities apparently using code to order children. It goes even deeper. So deeper in this rabbit hole, in July, a Reddit user sparked a viral conspiracy theory with a post about, of all things, cabinets being sold by an online furniture retailer, Wayfair. The cabinets, which all cost more than $10,000, had been given female names as their product titles on the website. Soon, the theory that Wayfair was trafficking children disguised as furniture was spreading around the internet. Wayfair refuted it by explaining that the items earned their high prices because they are industrial grade cabinets and that an algorithm had named the products. And because Ellen DeGeneres has a partnership with Wayfair, Pizzagate decided that she's somehow in on the kid smuggling. Chrissy Teigen attracted the conspiracist's attention after some of her old tweets surfaced, while Jimmy Fallon and Jimmy Kimmel, who took breaks from their late night shows that year in the summer, were interpreted by Pizzagate adlers as attempting to dodge their involvement in the conspiracy. Which brings us on to Adrenachrome. Okay, so Adrenachrome has been a popular topic in conspiracy circles, particularly this year. It's a drug of the Hollywood elites. Apparently, it's addicted and it's harvested from tortured children in satanic rituals. Aldous Huxley, in 1954's essay, The Doors of Perception, written mostly about his experiences with mescaline, discusses the possibility that adrenochrome is a compound with similar effects to the psychedelic cactus. He has not taken it and doesn't know how one would obtain it, saying just that it's spontaneously produced by the human blood. He describes it as a product of the decomposition of adrenaline, which is surprisingly correct. There is a brief mention of adrenochrome in the 1962 novel A Clockwork Orange, where it's an optional addition to the cocktail glass of milk, Moloko Plus. But probably the most cited use of the compound is in Hunter S. Thompson's Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. It might be a novel, but many assumed it was a real thing that people really did. So Thomas did not explain that adrenochrome buzz in great detail, but this probably is not too far off from his vision. Here's a clip from Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas where they speak about adrenochrome.
What kind of hotel room 1600, please? As your attorney, I advise you to take a hit out of the little brown bottle in my shaving kit. You won't need much. Just a tiny taste.
What is this shit?
That stuff makes pure mescaline seem like ginger beer, man. Adrenachrome.
Adrenachrome?
In the next scene that you'll hear of Hunter S. Thompson's Fear and Loathing, the character, Dr. Gonzo, says he got the adrenochrome from a Satanist freak. There's only one source for this stuff, he says, the adrenaline glands from a living human body. It's no good to get it out of a corpse. I'd sooner have 1 ounce of pure adrenachrome or maybe just a fresh adrenaline gland to chew on. Then he goes on to say they nail this guy for child molesting. The scene then progresses with him turning into a devil-like character. There's talk of extracting the pineal gland and then further debauchery.
I remember slumping on the bed. His performance had given me a bad jolt. For a moment, I thought his mind had snapped. That he actually believed he was being attacked by invisible enemies. But the room was quiet again. Where'd you get this?
Never mind, it's absolutely pure.
What kind of monster client have you hooked up with this time?
Satanism freak.
I think there's only one source for this stuff. The adrenaline gland from a living human body.
I know. The guy didn't have any cash to pay me. He offered me human blood, said it would take me higher than I'd ever been in my life. Thought he was kidding. So I told him I'd just as soon have an ounce or so of pure adrenachrome. Or maybe just a fresh adrenaline gland to chew on.
I could already feel the stuff working on me. The first wave felt like a combination of mescaline and methadone. Maybe I should take a swim, I thought.
Yes, sir. They nailed this guy for child molesting. He swore he didn't do it. Why should I fuck with children, he said. They're too small. Christ, what could I say? Even a goddamn werewolf is entitled to legal counsel. Didn't dare to turn a creep down. Might have picked up a letter opener and gone after my pineal gland. You know?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Why not?
So if you take Huxley's essay, The Doors of Perception, in 1954, which quite accurately speaks about adrenochrome, and then Clockwork Orange, which speaks about adrenochrome, and couple that with Fear of Loathing, who goes into more detail, then you can really see how these conspiracy theories take life. There is also a theory that the powers that be put all of this information in plain sight, that they have an obligation almost of telling us what they're doing, but the masses are so blind, are so brainwashed, that it kind of goes over their heads. It could also be said that this is so far-fetched that it couldn't possibly be true. Like, really, there are people out there sacrificing children and drinking their blood. Has this ever been seen in history, however? Well, let's have a look. So those who know the Bible knows that there's nothing new under the sun. The Bible describes Moloch. In the Hebrew Bible, Moloch is presented as a foreign deity who was at times illegitimately given a place in Israel's worship as a result of the policies of certain apostate kings. The laws given to Moses by God expressly forbade the Jews to do what was done in Egypt or in Canaan. Moloch is the biblical name of the Canaanite god associated with child sacrifice. So what we're seeing now is nothing that hasn't been done in the past. It's nothing new, essentially. The first mention of Moloch is actually in Leviticus 18, verse 21, in which the Lord commanded, "You shall not give any of your children to offer them to Moloch, and so profane the name of your God. I am the Lord." The worship of Moloch clearly involved ritual child sacrifice, something God's people were not to practice. This act was punishable by death according to Leviticus 20, verse 2, which states, "Any one of the people of Israel or of the strangers who sojourn in Israel who gives any of his children to Moloch shall surely be put to death." Further, child sacrifice to Molech was considered profanity against God's holy name. We see this in Leviticus 20, verse 3, where it says, I myself will set my face against that man and will cut him off from among his people, because he has given one of his children to Molech, to make my sanctuary unclean and to profane my holy name. Not only were those who sacrificed their children to be stoned to death in those days, those who ignored such a sacrifice would be abandoned by God. The final mention of Molech in the Old Testament is found in God's word to Jeremiah. It says, they set up their abominations in the house that is called by my name, to defile it. They built the high places of Baal in the valley of the son of Hinnom, to offer up their sons and daughters to Molech. Though I did not command them, nor did it enter into my mind that they should do this abomination to cause Judah to sin. That's Jeremiah 32, verses 34 to 35. So Molech represents the most repulsive of acts in God's sight, the ritual sacrifice of children to a pagan god, which is condemned in the strongest way by the Most High, including punishable by death. So as I've said, there's nothing new under the sun. The practice of child sacrifice has been taking place since the ancient of times. It is a regular practice still in the occult, particularly in things like obeah and juju or occultic practices, especially in Africa. Now, Canaan in the Bible, the land of Canaan, is Africa, and it still continues to this very day. So this conspiracy theory of, child sacrifices, you can kind of see why people are making the link. Maybe you're not that familiar with the Bible, so we'll give you the historical perspective to go and research for yourself. The Masoretic texts, which date back to the Middle Ages, reference Moloch. It appears in ancient Greek translations of the old Judaic texts as well. The distinction dates back to the Second Temple period of 516 BC to 70 AD, when the Second Temple of Jerusalem stood prior to its destruction by the Romans. Moloch's anthropomorphized bull figure was typically pictured in rabbinic Judaic text as a bronze statue internally heated by a fire. It was inside this construct that priests and parents placed their children to be consumed by fire as a sacrificial offering. Ancient Greek and Roman authors wrote tales of this practice, with the earliest being stories of child sacrifice. Archaeological excavations in 1920s then discovered primary evidence of child sacrifice in the region, and researchers also found the term MLK inscribed on numerous artifacts. So whether or not you want to take the biblical perspective, the historical perspective, or what has been found in archaeology, there was an ancient practice of sacrificing children to this satanic deity Molech. So what is this promised utopia promised by the cleaning of the swamp by Trump? To understand this, we have to look at NESARA and GESARA. So NESARA stands for the National Economic Security and Reformation Act. GESARA stands for the Global Economic Security and Reformation Act. These are laws that will change everyone's lives, apparently. The history of it is that Congress secretly passed these laws in early 2001. The supposed law forgives mortgages and credit card debts. It abolishes the IRS and declares peace. The project was born to restore the United States of America to its original constitution of the Republic and to remove the structure of the corporate United States. So this conspiracy claims that a powerful group called the White Knights are fighting a secret war against the so-called Illuminati over this secret law. So NESARA will unlock the wealth allegedly held in more than 50 prosperity programs. This sounds a bit familiar. If you don't know what I mean, please check out our video entitled Agenda 2030. I recommend you watch that because it does go over what the elites supposedly plan for the future of the masses, including the one world order, abolishing the middle class. And this is something that we can actually see happening during this pandemic, with many people being forced to rely on the state, on universal credit for survival. For those not completely reliant on the state, the government promises debt relief in exchange for civil liberties. So the federal government will offer to eliminate all personal debt, mortgages, loans, credit cards, etc., which will be funded by the IMF under what will be known as the World Debt Reset Program. This will be in exchange for the individual forfeiting ownership of any and all of their property and assets forever. Think about it. Why would the money-hungry capitalist globalists want to help the worker bees, want to give all this money to the working class people without there being some kind of catch, without there being some kind of vested interest in doing so? NESARA also promises the creation of the new US Treasury currency called the rainbow currency, backed by the gold, silver and platinum precious metals. It eliminates the Federal Reserve and, amongst other things, establishes peace throughout the world. The only thing we can say about that is, wasn't that what Gaddafi was trying to do? And then the Obama administration under Hillary Clinton got rid of him, assassinated, killed him. The richest country, or one of the richest country in the world, is actually the Congo in Africa. So if you're talking about gold and silver and precious metal reserves, then it will be those kind of countries that have the most. So why then would the United States try and get a currency that's backed by that? There seems to be a lot more digging that's needed here, people, to really understand what's going on. However, information on NESARA and GESARA seems very hard to come by, and a lot of videos on the subject are subsequently deleted on platforms such as YouTube. The other thing is, when they talk about establishing peace, and again, if you've not seen that video on the Great Reset that we've done in Agenda 2030, go and check it out. It's also on this channel. When they speak of peace, the Bible says this: when they shall say peace, peace and security, then shall sudden destruction come upon them, as the pains upon her that is with child, and they shall not escape. So this brings us to the 2020 general election. So as we've seen played out so far, Joe Biden has supposedly won the presidency. However, Donald Trump is claiming fraud. It's been played down at the moment in mainstream media. However, the Q-Anon community do believe that eventually Donald Trump will prove the allegations of fraud and will stay in power for another term. They feel that the elections were rigged, that there were a lot of dead people who apparently voted, that a lot of postal votes came in late and they were all for Biden, amongst a load of other theories around why the elections were a fraud. So it's interesting, very interesting times that we live in, my people. Will Donald Trump stay in the White House? He has, as it stands in December 2020, started to comply with the Biden camp in terms of handing over the White House, something he wasn't doing before. However, he's still saying that the fight isn't over. People, you cannot make this up. We are literally watching history play out in our lifetime. We do think there's one crucial part that the conspiracy theories have missed, though, because if the deep state truly do control everything, so the powers that really be, you know, the oil tycoons, your Rothschilds, your George Soros, if they are the people that are really in charge, then surely whoever's put in government is just a puppet. Regardless of whether it's Trump or Biden or Clinton or Obama, are they not different sides of the same coin? Democrat, Republican, you know, or even in England where it's Labour or Conservatives, is it not just a different side of the same coin? Are they still not run by the puppet masters? If Donald Trump was this big saviour, as his followers, or the Q-Anon followers at least, are making him out to be, would the deep state not have assassinated him a long time ago if he was going against the status quo? Is this whole democracy or setup of democracy not just game theory, a game put in place to make you, the people, think that you actually have a say, that you actually have a choice in who's in power, and that's actually going to make a difference to your life, when in fact the people that run the country, they choose who they want to win, and that's their agenda that you will see play out regardless of who is in power. Donald Trump calling out a fraud, what it has done is shown the system actually for what it is, but hey, it's just a conspiracy. Either way, by the grace of God, we'll be here in January 2021 to see how this all plays out. Either Donald Trump is going to remain in the White House, in which case the conspiracy theorists of QAnon would have been right all along, which would make us have to question where they write about Adrenachrome and Pizzagate. Alternatively, Joe Biden will take the presidency, in which case everyone will call the conspiracy theorists tinfoil and pretty much just laugh at everything that they thought was going to happen. Regardless, like we say, we know that the president, the prime minister, they're not the people who really run the country. It is the powers that be that determine who's in power, and it's all for their agenda. Thank you for listening and joining us here in the rabbit hole. We always encourage you to go away, do your own research to either back up or dispute what we've said here today, but hopefully we have shed some light for you on this topic. Stay tuned, stay locked in. We've got a lot more podcasts, a lot more videos coming your way. We will be updating more regularly, so like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you again soon.